What's up, everybody? Welcome to Friday. This is The Slate. We appreciate you finishing up your work week with us, or maybe you're just starting your work week. You go on through the weekend. I don't know. The important thing is that, at least if you come here, you get your bets in, you build your lineups, you do whatever it is that helps you enjoy some of these sporting events that much more. It's a busy night in the association with a dozen games. We'll get to that a little bit later on. There's stuff going on, obviously, in the World Series. Maybe we will touch on that. Naturally, heavy focus on football, though. Matt LaMarca, Jeff Ulrich, they're here. I'm Adam Kaufman. We appreciate you being here. Guys, what's going on? Great.
Not much on my end.
Good. I'm glad we did that.
I normally let the other
person just give people a chance to talk, Kaufman. My God.
Look, there becomes a point, Jeff, where you pause long enough, it just gets awkward. That silence.
I'm doing fine. There.
Good.
Go.
Good. Great. All right. Let me catch people up for anyone that maybe hasn't been glued to Twitter like we obviously have. Some of the key injury news as we enter the main slate, the Sunday, and we will look back, however briefly, on that Eagles win over the Texans last night in a moment. But Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Devontae Parker, Jamar Chase, not all these guys created equally, obviously. Jonathan Taylor, Jahan Dotson, Russell Gage, pardon me. You got Chuba Hubbard and Corey Davis. They are all out this weekend already. Game time decisions, James Conner, Ryan Tannehill. Questionable players, Darren Waller, DeAndre Swift, Christian Watson, Alan Lazard, Damian Harris, and Van Jefferson. Let's start with that in this way, Moose. Which one of these injuries are you watching most closely or is most impactful heading into the weekend based on guys who are left on their teams?
Look, Ryan Tannehill is probably the biggest impact, I guess. Because he plays quarterback, but
sure.
For me, I think that one situation I'm definitely looking at or just waiting for is word on Cordell Patterson. The Falcons just run the ball at such an insane rate. They're effective run team, and they're playing the worst rush defense in the league. Tyler Algier for props, for whatever you're doing for DFS. Once we get news that CPAT sits, you should just be piling in on the overs. And just you could even, I don't even know what we have up here yet on DraftKings Sportsbook, but yeah, we don't have them up yet. But, once they get up, I would hit them early. Tyler Algier is a player who's been getting lower props anyways. He's still splitting carries, but he did see 60% of the snaps last week. That's just a really big spot for me. We already have confirmation that the Chargers wide receivers are out. And I think that does draw me more to Atlanta in that game. I know that's one of the teams I wrote up this week. The Falcons have been good cover teams anyways. They almost covered last week. They probably should have, to be honest. And I think that the Chargers, even coming off a bye, I think this team is very vulnerable against a team like Atlanta. They can run so much. It all, the injuries there really kind of lead me towards two pretty hard plays for this week.
LaMarca, most impactful injuries to you?
Well, first off, I think Jeff's spot on with the Falcons call. They are one of my three favorite plays this week. I have three bets this week that I really like, which is always a scary thing. And the Falcons is one of them. Obviously, I would have preferred, you could have gotten it at +3.5 earlier in the week. It's down to 3. But you look at this Chargers team, and they are just a shell of themselves, right? No Joey Bosa, no Rashawn Slater, no Keenan Allen, no Mike Williams. Who's left for this team? And why does that group deserve to be favored by 3 points on the road against the Falcons? So I love Atlanta in this spot. I think another injury situation that's worth monitoring is Green Bay. Their wide receiver group, very questionable at the moment, right? There's a lot of concern about Rodgers not trusting any of these guys. And it does make it tough to click on one of them in DFS this week, but the matchup is just as juicy as it gets against Detroit. So if Lazard is out, we can go back to Romeo Doubs, I think. And even other positions like Aaron Jones, I think would become a smash play at running back. So definitely monitoring the Green Bay situation, going to see who's in and out there, because I do think that this is a breakout spot for their offense.
You mentioned, LaMarca, you got some favorite bets here this weekend. We'll talk about that. But first, because I always tell the people, tail them while they're hot, right? Ride high on what's going on with LaMarca throughout this NFL season. Still good. What's the overall record now?
So we were 3-2 again last week. Got in the back door on Sunday Night Football with the Packers plus 10.5. So thank you for that, I guess, Green Bay. We are now 31-9 for the year through 8 weeks.
I mean, that's pretty good. That'll make you some money, folks. 31
That's not pretty
9.
good. That's let's be clear. That's insane.
Exceptional
for NFL. Yeah. That's
he's doing well. It's why I tell the people. I tell them every single week. I don't know how many people watch this show on a daily basis, obviously, but in particular the Friday show, because this is when LaMarca likes to give out his picks, and we tell the people just how successful he has been so far this year. Hop on, tail the guy. So what do you got? What do you really like? What are you scared of this weekend because you like it so much?
Well, it starts with the Falcons. They're one of my favorite picks of the week. I think my favorite bet right now, and I do mean literally right now, because you need to get this line while you still can, is the Panthers plus 7.5. This line has dropped to 7 across most of the industry. I think it is headed there eventually on DraftKings. But I like this Panthers team a lot more now that they have PJ Walker at quarterback. Like, he obviously isn't as hyped as Baker Mayfield, but the one thing he has done this year is hold on to the football, right? He's not turning it over, which is a huge improvement over what Baker Mayfield was doing. He had 4 interceptions and 6 fumbles in his 5 games. And you look at this Bengals team, and they're also dealing with a bunch of injuries right now, very similar to what Atlanta's going through. Like, obviously, Jamar Chase is going to get the headlines, but they're also down 2 cornerbacks, possibly 3 if Trey Flowers sits. He's currently questionable. So I think that this number is too much in Cincinnati's favor right now. I would have it personally under a touchdown. So I like grabbing them at plus 7.5. And then the other one is the Commanders plus 3. I have been hard on the Vikings are a fraud train. It cost me last week, but I do think that the Cardinals were still the right side in that game. They were down 2 points. They were receiving a punt with 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Greg Dortch muffs the punt. The Vikings take it in for a touchdown, and then Arizona never closes the gap from there. The Commanders, since going back to Taylor Heineke at quarterback, I think they've looked better. Particularly, they're getting the ball to Terry McLaurin, which is always a good idea. And the Vikings are dead last this season in DVOA against number 1 wide receivers. We saw DeAndre Hopkins torch them last week. I think Terry McLaurin can do the same. So I like the Commanders getting 3 at home. But if you also just wanted to take some Terry McLaurin overs, I would be okay with that decision too.
Moose, what do you think of LaMarca's best bets here?
I think that we are very in sync this week, and I like that. Washington is the top 3 team for me as well. This team that's allowed under 200 yards passing in each of their last 4 starts. People, it's just an underrated story. Like they're kind of just getting, like, people don't even know they exist because you got the Giants in there. People are talking about the Cowboys and the Eagles. Like, they're 4-4, and they could probably even have a bit better record if they had gone to Heineke earlier. This team is just better without Carson Wentz. Like, I mean, they don't turn the ball over much. Their defensive line's starting to play better. And I mean, yeah, like the Vikings, Kirk Cousins on the road too. It's a small sample, but like his QB rating is 76, 4 INTs versus 4 touchdowns. I always target Kirk Cousins when he goes outside because he turns to sugar. It's just a good combination here. Like the way the Commanders defense is playing. And the other thing is, like, Chase Young's back to practice. He's not playing, but trust me, like, it just perks the team up. And I think the Commanders know, like, they've got Heineke. The cancer that is Carson Wentz is gone. Chase Young is back. I think this team realizes, like, they have a shot right now. This is a big game for them. They just beat another NFC North team in the Packers. I think they'll probably do it again. I think they're very live for an outright too. But yeah, take them at 3. I definitely, I didn't write up or get on the Panthers bet just for the simple fact I hate betting against Joe Burrow. But like, I'm not betting the Bengals here. They're extremely banged up, and the Panthers is probably the play. The only other kind of top bet for me is going to be that Green Bay game. I just don't think people realize how bad this Detroit defense is, man. Like, if Aaron Jones can put up 7 yards per carry against the Bills, I think Green Bay's got to get back on track here. I mean, if they don't, their season's done. Like if you can't smoke the Lions in the spot, just get out of here. I mean, like I'm done with you. So I'm giving the Packers one more chance. And I like the fact people aren't jumping on the Packers. The public is actually heavier on the Lions here. So that's good. Great. This is the perfect spot to get on the Packers.
One of the big topics that we were on pre-show, I promise, sometimes the off-air show is far more entertaining than the on-air show. And in this particular case, it was kind of the same show. We were just talking about bets and things like weather going into the weekend. You were both fixated on this Bears game in Chicago against the Dolphins. Right now, that's -4 for Miami. The favorites going into the Windy City, where it is expected to be, a game that is impacted by weather, LaMarcus. So, granted, weather can change. We know that. We're still a couple days out, not quite 48 hours, but a couple days out. What's the outlook here for this one?
Yeah, so the weather forecast has improved since the start of the week. At the beginning of the week, it kind of sounded like we were looking at another, wet, windy situation, kind of similar to that Bears 49ers game in week one, which was basically like an abomination of a football game. I don't think things are going to be nearly that bad, but the gusts, Jeff said, going to get up to around 20, 25 miles an hour, sustained winds in the teens. It's definitely the type of forecast that favors a team like the Bears that pounds the run. The Dolphins, they are a pass-heavy team. They have two of the most explosive receivers in football in Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and anything that's going to impact the ability to get the ball in their hands has to be seen as a detriment. So I was kind of leaning Bears in this game to begin with. I really like what I've seen from Justin Fields the last couple of weeks, particularly his willingness to sort of just run the ball more, right? It's one of his best strengths, and the fact that he wasn't a guy that was getting 10 plus carries a game always kind of seemed off to me. So now the fact that he's actually doing that, I think makes a lot of sense. So I like the Bears in this spot, or I'm leaning towards the Bears in this spot. Not an official play for me, but for sure, if the forecast turns worse, then I think you can give the Bears a real strong look.
Jeff?
Yeah, I probably won't bet this game, but I don't think I'm going to bet the Dolphins. Dolphins, we're kind of in a similar spot against the Steelers, against the weaker team. They didn't put them away. I just didn't like the way they operated, like a good team there. We saw the Eagles do it the week after. The Eagles covered like a far bigger spread. This just feels like a similar situation, potentially even a worse situation, because now the Eagles' biggest kind of strength in this game, or just edge that they had in that pass game, could get negated. I think if the weather gets ugly enough here, this is definitely an upset spot. So I'll probably I may give the Bears a sprinkle or something, but this is a good game for passing for props for me. It's a really good one to target. I'm still leaning over on Darnell Mooney. We'll see how ugly it gets, but he's got a 41.5 receiving prop. He's gone over 50 yards in 5 straight games. And I think Chase Claypool being out there, I'm not sure if he's starting but he should play some snaps.
I think they said 10 to 30 snaps for Claypool.
Perfect. That's exactly what I want this week. He's going to take some pressure off Mooney. Mooney will still be out there. I'm going to go over it because the prop is 41.5. It's got some of this weather baked in, as long as the weather doesn't get too crazy. The other side of this is I'm definitely playing the under on Tua on his passing yards, the 260.5. I think this is too big anyways to begin with. The Bears just play at a slow pace. Quarterbacks against them just end up not having to throw for that many yards because their offense often just doesn't, the Bears games are just slow. They go by fast. So I'm looking at Tua under with the wind as well. And then probably, we'll see what the weather is. But I'm going to stick on this Darnell Mooney. He's paid off for me 2 or 3 weeks in a row now. And I'm going to stick with it because the prop is so low at the moment. And I'm not scared of this Miami defense either. I know they added Roquan Smith, but they haven't been great at stopping yardage. So I think the Bears will be able to move the ball.
So none of these games, looking at it right now, we'll see if anything changes, obviously, but none of these games have an extraordinarily high point total, nothing that is touching 50 points right now, although you obviously have some 49 and a half. So they're right there. Packers, Lions, Chargers, Falcons, and Seahawks, Cardinals are all in that vicinity. If you had to identify one, I'm thinking about it in terms of betting the over. I'm thinking about it in terms of chasing points and in terms of building lineups and chasing the $1 million. What game are you most inclined, LaMarca, to target if obviously you're looking for fantasy value here?
I think Packers Lions is the spot that I'm looking at for the over. The Lions have, they started the year by being just this massive blowout team or shootout team. Each of their first 4 games hit at least 52 points. Some of those games went well over that figure.
Yeah, well, they were scoring 30 and allowing 30 per game.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah.
But then DeAndre Swift got hurt and Amon-Ra St. Brown got hurt, and I think that kind of changed who the Lions were offensively. And Swift technically is questionable for this week. I do think he probably plays a limited role like he did last week. And just having him back on the field, I think, is a huge boost for this Lions offense. We know that their defense is bad. I think the Packers should be able to put points on the scoreboard. And as long as the Lions have their guys available, I think they keep pace. So I think that if this game was played in like week 4, week 5, this total is probably closer to 52, 53 points. So I'll take the value here with over 49.5.
Jeff?
Yeah, I think there's really 3 games that I'm targeting. This could have the potential to be a lower scoring week for sure. I think there's as many ugly games, if not more, than higher scoring chances. But Green Bay, Detroit, Matt already mentioned that. I'm definitely agree. Detroit's offense, Amon-Ra St. Brown, second week back. He kind of ate up the Packers last year. So there should be some garbage time points on the other side of it. We know, I just already talked about Aaron Jones. The Chargers-Falcons one is really the one that I like targeting. I just think the offense is there in such good positions to dominate weaker defenses. Even with the Chargers being out, 2 receivers, still going to have Everett, Josh Palmer, and really just Justin Herbert is there. So they're going to be able to move the ball. I already talked about the Falcons rushing attack. And then the Seahawks and Cardinals. I think there'll be points there as well. I know these 2 teams played for an ugly game the last time, but in the past, these teams have gone for a lot of points, and this is a different Cardinals team with DeAndre Hopkins. What have we seen the last 2 games from them? A lot of points. They haven't won both games, but the points have been there. And I think that's exactly what this game's going to be. I think that Seattle eventually will take control, but Arizona will push them to the end, just like the Cardinals have been pushing teams the last couple of weeks. I think like 30, 25, something on the table for sure. So Seattle, Arizona, I think you'll see a lot more points in that first matchup. Also, sometimes those second matchups tend to be a little bit more wide open. So in the division games I'm talking about, I like that one as well. I think Geno Smith, Tyler Lockett is really interesting for DFS. I especially like Lockett. He's eaten up the Cardinals before as well.
So let's talk a little DFS here, and we can go back and forth. If any, other lingering thoughts on sports betting, obviously come into play. I don't want to take you guys away from the opportunity to promote those to the people in the DraftKings Sportsbook. But DK, of course, has the NFL $3.5 million fantasy football millionaire contest, $1 million to first place, Tournament of Champions, semifinal entry as well. So $20 to enter. Clearly, we encourage you to do so, and you've already got about 36,000 people that are in there, and that will continue to grow. Looking at the main slate, because that is what's available in this contest here, the quarterback position in particular really interests me, because you've got the Bills taking on the Jets in the Meadowlands, and heavy favorites. They're going to blow doors in all likelihood. They should, and Buffalo is one of the better teams in the NFL. We've talked at length about that. But the discrepancy right now in terms of the projections, Josh Allen is projected to have right around 27, 28 points, which is so far and away, so much higher than anyone else on the slate. Next best would be Kyler Murray at like 22, 23, Stephon Diggs, Cooper Kupp. He's healthy, by the way, no injury designation for him. Justin Herbert, sticking with the quarterbacks, is right there as well. But you've got a 5-point cushion there between Allen and anybody else. So he's also, significantly higher priced at $8,500, more than $1,000 more than the next best quarterback as we might be showing you here than Kyler Murray. But do you have to do it? I guess really is what I'm wondering, Moose. Like, do you have to go after Josh Allen? Are you looking for the differentiation because you figure he's going to be really popular? He's going to be 10, 15% owned and you want to go in a different direction? Or is it just such a slam spot for him?
No, it's not really. I mean, this is one spot where I'm not really that fearful of fading Josh Allen. It's the Jets. And the thing about it's not that it's necessarily like an impossible matchup. It's just what do the Jets do? Like, they don't move the ball on offense. They play slower paced games. They try to, they control things with their defense and then try to just, run the ball. And that's what they've been. They're not going to be able to do that against Buffalo. Buffalo's too good a defense for them to move the ball. Their defense isn't going to stop Josh Allen. Allen's going to get some scores and the Bills will put up points, but I don't think the yards are going to be there for Allen this week. That's what worries me. I like the unders on his props here. That's just what we've seen from teams playing the Jets. And I think you're going to get a similar game. So I think going down to Justin Herbert is the play for DFS personally. I mean, again, like, you can get a cheap stack with him with Gerald Everett and Josh Palmer or one of them. You can come back on the other side with the Atlanta running back, whether it's Patterson or Algier. I really like Justin Herbert this week. And I also I liked Justin Fields before the weather turned, before I knew that the weather was turning. So I guess that's like my cheap play. You're just going to have to wait on the Chicago game. If it's too ugly, you just need to just forget about it for DFS, in my opinion. I think actually Mariota would probably be the cheap quarterback I'd go to. Again, he could show up with like 70 yards and 250 yards in a passing touchdown or something, or a rushing touchdown. I just think that Chargers Atlanta game has so much potential. So both quarterbacks there, definitely, top plays for me.
Herbert's projection, by the way, is about 6% ownership, which is half of that of Josh Allen right now. And again, so much can change in the next less than 48 hours. Aaron Rodgers is the next closest to Josh Allen. Lamarca, how do you feel about this spot?
I'm not a huge fan of paying up for Herbert. I would rather go up to Josh Allen, because with Allen, I know that I have the 40-point ceiling. I don't know if I have that with Justin Herbert, regardless of how good his matchup is, right? He's just not going to give us rushing production. And if your quarterback is going to hit a ceiling game, he's likely going to need to contribute something with his legs. So I will be paying up for Allen wherever possible. The ceiling to me is it's so unmatched on this slate. You can get away with using a cheaper quarterback, and if they get you 30 points, that's going to be fine. But I think that Herbert, Kyler Murray, Burrow tier, to me, that's the toughest tier to make a case for, because they don't have the same upside as Allen, and they don't have as much value potential as the cheaper quarterbacks. That's kind of how I'm looking at things.
Your top 7 projected players in terms of ownership, not points, but ownership, all right around 20% or higher, ranging all the way up to almost 30%, which is Travis Etienne sitting at the top at about 27%. But you have Etienne, Jacobs, Aaron Jones, Stevenson, Mixon, Eckler, Walker. That is your top 7. Again, all 20% basically or higher ownership. Lamarca, any surprise there at all that there isn't another position mixed into that one of these guys is projected to be in a fifth of lineups? How are you looking at this?
No, it doesn't surprise me, because these DraftKings prices have been pretty terrible. No offense to DraftKings. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but the algorithm's got to step its game up, man. I mean, all Ramondre Stevenson and Kenneth Walker and Travis, all these guys have been doing is just smashing their salary, and yet it just doesn't move. What does Ramondre Stevenson have to do at this point to get priced up to over 7K, which is what his salary should be? And that's another reason why, I mean,
and Damian Harris, by the way, has been ruled out this weekend, so it's very much a smash spot for him,
especially in cash games. This is why I think you should be playing Josh Allen, because all of these running backs that are priced in the low 6Ks, you could make a case that some of them deserve to be 8K this week. So you're getting a ton of value at running back, and I think the best thing to do is spend up then for the safety and upside combination that Allen brings to the table.
Jeff, what's the view of the backs?
Yeah, no, I mean, Stevenson should be, high 7s. I don't know why Travis Etienne is still 6,300. I mean, who I just love as a player anyways. He should be high 7s. I mean, you can make an argument these guys are all better than Dalvin Cook this week. I mean, I don't know. I guess Dalvin Cook is the galaxy brain play where you play him and then you skip that tier. That's the real YOLO play where you try and get one over on the field. Cause I'm what is the appeal of playing Dalvin Cook at 7,800 when you have Stevenson, Etienne, Even our guy like Joe Mixon, Josh Jacobs, these guys are all $500 or more cheaper. I do like Aaron Jones the most, like a pure upside this week. I mean, Jones scored 4 times in a game versus the Lions last year. You've got a pissed off Packers team going up against the same Detroit defense, if not worse. I like for ceiling purposes. I mean, Aaron Jones' ceiling to me this week feels unlimited. But like Stevenson,
unlimited.
There we go.
I say, Jeff,
Mr.
Jeff, what kind of ceiling does Aaron Jones possess this week? I say, unlimited.
So it's big.
You say you know you want to.
I'm not saying it. But like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, like Stevenson, no Damian Williams. I mean, or Damian Harris. I don't like the running back is just kind of feels like choose your poison. I mean, I just have a bunch of different combos of these guys, and like you work them into the rest of your lineups. That's exactly what I do. I take, like the start with Jones and go down to I maybe even mix in a little bit of Mostert and Walker and just mix and match, because I mean, other than Aaron Jones, who I have a pretty hard take on, like the rest of them are just in good spots and their salary's too cheap. So there's not much between. Well, it's mainly Etienne and Stevenson that there's not much between. I think Walker limited more by his lack of pass catching. Mostert limited more by just the same thing, actually. So those guys have upside, but a little bit more variable, but still really good spots for both of them too. I mean, Mostert against the Bears just let go one of their top D linemen. So just pick your poison at running back this week. It's hard to go wrong, really, just in terms of what we're being offered in terms of value. So
I will say, if you want a tournament running back, AJ Dillon, for all the same reasons as Aaron Jones. He's not going to be the same pass catching threat, but I do think that 100 rushing yards and multiple scores is within his range of outcomes this week.
I mean, and everybody was to that point, Matt. Like everybody preseason was, this is the year AJ Dillon takes off. He's gonna have some 100-yard games, like score all the touchdowns. I was saying that, and now nobody in the world will play this guy this week. 0 people are playing AJ Dillon. I guarantee it. Aaron Jones coming off his biggest usage game of the year. I don't even want to play AJ Dillon, but it's the same as Dalvin Cook. Why I'm bringing him up. I don't think people are looking there. If you want to get over on the field for a 2% play with a player who lives that kind of legit upside, it's right there.
Yeah,
right. Because AJ Dillon had 10 carries last week in a game that the Packers were losing throughout. If we believe in their offense being in control of this game, it's a great spot for him to get to maybe like 15 carries. And if he does that, he's got upside. So yeah. We're speaking the same language here.
And obviously price has a lot to do with this at $5,700, but ownership is 1.7% right now. So when Jeff said 2%, he was right there. Maybe I'm naive. I'm a little surprised. So when it comes to season long, popular streaming play this week is obviously going to be Deion Jackson, with Jonathan Taylor out for the Colts against the Patriots. And, he's like, you mentioned tournament plays, AJ Dillon. Like, this is another guy to me that sort of screams tournament play, and he's only projected to be about 4% owned. He's projected for about 12 points. And I know he's not elite, obviously, but he just strikes me as a guy. I pulled up his game log here. I'm just looking at it, and last time he got a real opportunity, he had 28 fantasy points. Like, this is a guy who has high upside. He has a high ceiling. I'm not saying he's got the safest floor, which speaks to obviously the lower ownership, but he does have high upside. Is this a guy that you're making a bunch of lineups, you want to sprinkle in it all, LaMarca?
I do think the ownership projection will catch up as soon. Like, we're still pretty fresh on the news that Jonathan Taylor has been ruled out. So I don't expect him to be like sub 10% come Sunday morning, but I do still think he's somebody that you can play this week. I would not expect another 10 target performance. That was when he was playing with the ghost of Matt Ryan, and, Sam Ellinger. We don't know if he's going to be as willing to check the ball down, but certainly any running back who's going to get the majority of his team's touches is in play at 5,200.
Yeah. I'd probably rather get up to Singletary there. He's just looked really good. The Bills, I think, are just going to be straight control of that game. Deion Jackson, I don't know. Yeah, it worries me a little bit. I think with the Ellinger factor, if it was Matt Ryan, I'd be way more bullish as well. I think you get a lot of checkdowns. I think Ellinger will be taken off a lot. They could be behind, so looking more for Pittman. It's not a spot I'm very excited about, to be honest.
All right, let's any other, whether it's I know Jeff, you really love the prop bets. LaMarca, you don't spend a lot of time with that, but just before we mix in a little bit of basketball before we get out of here, in terms of NFL, is there anything else that we have not yet talked about, either of you, but Jeff, starting with you, that whether DFS or obviously DK Sportsbook, you'd like to mix in something that you're paying a lot of attention to?
No, I mean, I think I talked about a couple of the receiving spots I like. Tyler Lockett, like I said, I mean, I think big day for Geno Smith coming up too. Another potential over I'd be looking at. I think Geno's passing yardage the last couple of weeks just been down, but it's not down from bad play, just down from game circumstances. So even just looking at taking the overs on him this week, I think is going to be fairly reasonable. Again, I expect the Cardinals to make a game of this. I'd probably lean Seahawks there, but other than that, I think I mentioned everything. I mean, if we want to touch on the Sunday nighter, again, Derrick Henry, another player I'm probably going to be fading this week. But that's for, I don't know, Sunday.
It's for another time. What about you there, Maddie?
I don't know why DeAndre Hopkins is still 7,900, and I don't understand why his projected ownership this week isn't like 50%. The guy has like a 40% target share since returning to the lineup. He has a 60% air yard share since returning to the lineup. He is quite literally the only guy in Arizona right now. Marquise Brown is hurt. AJ Green is pure dust. And the little slot dude is just a pure gadget player. Rondale Moore.
Yeah.
Just play DeAndre Hopkins. Like I really think it's that easy at wide receiver this week. I don't get the salary.
All right, let's do a little bit of my goodness, phone going crazy. Let's do a little bit of NBA. LaMarca, before we do a little DFS, I know there was something that caught your eye for tonight's 12 gamer.
Yeah, so I'm looking at in Brooklyn, well, technically in Washington, but Brooklyn Nets tonight. No Kyrie Irving, no Ben Simmons. I think that this is a great spot for Kevin Durant. Like that may sound obvious on the surface, but where I really think it benefits him the most is in his peripheral production, right? Like he's already been scoring the ball really well this year. He's averaging 32.5 points per game, but the big difference is he is not rebounding and he is not getting assists. He's at 5.6 rebounds per game and 4.4 assists. Those are very low for a player of Durant's caliber. With Simmons out of the lineup, we have seen a little spike for him in those departments over the past few games. And now you add Kyrie Irving sitting into the mix. I think Kevin Durant has to do everything today. So you can get the over on 15.5 combined rebounds plus assists. You can get that at even money. That's the safe wager. If you want to go with the risky wager, you can get Kevin Durant to triple double at plus 750. And I like that. I'm in on a KD triple double tonight. I mean, he's been flirting with it the last two games. You add Kyrie out and now KD is your primary facilitator. I think he can do it.
So just to add to that, obviously Durant's going to be exceedingly popular tonight in DFS and is a tremendous play with so little around him, as LaMarca already outlined. I know that, you've got like Giannis is the most expensive play, and Giannis is Giannis, and he can always explode. And Luka doing what he has been doing literally every game so far this year. But the best plays, at least going in, the best plays on paper, Durant, Joel Embiid is probably an even better play with no James Harden, certainly for Philadelphia. Both LA guys, and I'm not talking about Russ, I'm talking LeBron and AD, assuming that they both play. They are both in really strong spots. And AD is a little bit of a salary savings as well, because he's the only one of that group that I mentioned that's sub 10K and just about at 9,000, as a matter of fact. Kristaps Porzingis is in a tremendous spot as well, and he is super cheap, relative to stars. He's $7,600. If you're looking for real value, just look at Golden State with, there's no Steph tonight, there's no Draymond, there's no Klay Thompson, like just ruling guys out left and right. So you got a ton of value in that game in general, but just know that if anyone has been paying attention, they're going to be on it as well. So you got to figure out how to differentiate yourself. But that's about it. I think we're about out of time, boys. But you know what? It always goes by quickly with you two. It's just so much fun.
Okay.
All right, great. Again with the silence, Jeff. Thanks to Eamon. Thanks to
okay. I said okay.
Okay. All right. Good.
Okay.
Great. All right.
My mom told me not to lie, so I didn't say anything.
Very good. All right, everybody, watch the Weird Al biopic tonight on the Roku channel.
Get out of here.
Do it for me, if nothing else. I don't have the Sims to talk about this stuff anymore, so do it. It's really enjoyable and it's ironic. All right, Moose, Lamarca, Kaufman. We'll see you on Monday.
Bye.